The exact physical location of an OT device is one of its most important data items. In this video, you will learn how to specify device location properly in the OT-based OT asset management system. Imagine you had an accurate asset inventory of your several dozen thousand OT devices. You have make and model, serial number, firmware version, IP addresses, the works. But you didn't know anything about physical location. What good would such an inventory be? The answer is, its utility would be severely limited. Physical device location is one of the most fundamental data items in an asset management system. It's also important for access control to your asset data because you want to make sure that some users can only see asset data from a particular site or even a particular building or room. Let's see how this is addressed in the OT-based OT asset management system. In the location directory that you can access in the inventory, you can define your location tree. This means you can build out a location hierarchy that may start with continents or countries, such as USA, and work your way down to lower level items such as sites, buildings, rooms, and cabinets. The granularity of that tree is completely up to you. If you need something like continents, insert them. If you don't need them, don't. If you benefit from specifying control system cabinets, insert them, or leave them out if you don't. You can always rearrange your location tree at a later time without having to edit device data. For example, if you decide to insert states below the country level, you can move existing locations under the appropriate state with drag and drop. Here are some typical mistakes that we see a lot with first-time users. Location always means geolocation, something that you can pinpoint on a map, be it a street map or a floor map, something that you can take a photograph of. A location is not, on the other hand, a network or the name of a PC from which you discover OT devices. It's always something that can be referenced in a geospatial context, whereas a network, for example, is something virtual and can and will change over time. Also note that you cannot make a photo of a network, but you can make a photo of buildings, rooms, or cabinets. The exact structure of your location tree is one of the first things you should work on when starting to configure OT-based Asset Center. It usually involves discussions with your peers, maybe even with other departments. Don't do this alone. Ideally, somebody else has already worked on a useful location namespace for your company. An example would be facility management, where exact location references are always needed. Once that you have a basic location tree in place, it's time to work on the details of each individual location. This is what you see in the right pane when you select a location or sub-location with left click. Let's get through all the various fields. The location ID is essential for mapping the automatic discovery of devices that is performed by OT-based asset discovery to a particular leaf in your location tree. In order to make sure that your devices and networks are shown in the proper place in the location tree, you need to assign the location ID from Asset Discovery to its matching location in the tree. So, for example, after assigning the ID FRK to the Flat Rock site, all asset data from OT-based Asset Discovery using that ID will be placed automatically at Flat Rock. The location name is what you and everybody else in the company call this location. A location name is usually much more verbose and intuitive than a location ID. If the location name is not particularly self-explanatory, you can add a description to make clear what this location is. When you check the reference location box, the location will be highlighted in the tree in boldface and with a home icon. Additionally, reference locations are exposed in product profiles where you can see how many and which devices are located in your reference locations. Usually, a reference location is identical to a production site. A location group allows you to qualify a location. For example, you may point out that a particular area of your plant requires personal protective gear. In order to do that, you first define a location group in Inventory Extended, and then you can assign the group to your location. If you also assign a color code, that color will automatically be used in network topology diagrams for your location. Address is the street address of your location. After having input an address, you can click on the globe icon to show this address on Google Maps. The GPS field has a similar purpose as address, but is used for situations where no street address is available, such as for offshore oil platforms. The company field can be used to identify the corporate branch or operator of this location, which does not necessarily have to be identical to the parent company. In the map field, you can store a map or picture that quickly allows users to find any sublocations of your location. In our example, we have highlighted the location of various buildings on our site with hotspots. For the canvas, you can upload either a scalable vector graphics file or a bitmap. Placing hotspots is very simple because OTBase will automatically present you all the sublocations you have defined in the location tree on the left as potential hotspots, which you can then move around on the map. You can add a picture of your location in the interest of user friendliness. If your location is monitored by a webcam, you can insert the link to that cam here. Finally, you can attach files to your location, which can be easily accessed with a click of the mouse by OTBase users. Once that you are done with your editing, don't forget to click the Save button. Now let's look what we have achieved with all these edits by launching the location profile. This can be done either in the location directory by clicking on Profile for the selected location or by clicking on any other reference of a location in OTBase. Yet another way to open a location profile is to enter the location ID or the location name in the Quick Search field. A location profile contains all the data that we have just discussed and more. It is divided in several sections that you can expand and collapse. If you have uploaded a picture for the location, it will be shown as kind of an avatar in the upper left corner. You can expand the picture with left click. General information about the location, such as the street address, are shown in the General section. Note that the location tree for your location is broken apart, and you can click on individual parts if you want to see the location profile for an upper level location. If you have entered a street address, you can open Google Maps by clicking on it. The Map section shows an interactive map of your location if you have uploaded one. Any hotspots that you have placed are interactive. Hovering over a hotspot will pop up the picture of that sublocation if you provided one, and will also show the number of devices in that sublocation. Left click will open the location profile of the sublocation in a new window. Next section is the network topology for your location. The topology diagram is created automatically, and any color codes you have used for location groups will be reflected in the diagram. Next is a list of all OT systems at that location. If you are new to OT base, OT systems are usually conversion lines in discrete manufacturing and distributed control systems in process control. Next is a list of all individual devices at your location. Note that you can resort the table by clicking on a column header. If you are primarily interested in the network topology for a particular location rather than in the full location profile, click the Topology button for your selected location. This will open the topology dialog for this location with additional options for exporting to Visio and for changing the topology layout. Now let's look how individual devices that are automatically discovered by OT base are tied to a specific slot in the location tree. The basis for this is the location identifier that you can assign to a device in OT base asset discovery. A location identifier is a reference to a specific location using a standardized nomenclature. Chances are that your organization already has such a nomenclature in place that tells everybody that XYZ-5-99 is Control System Cabinet 99 in Building 5 at the XYZ plant. If you don't have such a nomenclature, you can always invent one together with your peers. As far as OT base is concerned, a location identifier can be something totally non-intuitive, such as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The most important thing is that it uniquely identifies a particular location, be it a production site, building, floor, you name it. However, it increases usability if your location IDs can be understood and thus validated by humans without the help of a lookup table. Anyhow, once you have your nomenclature for location IDs in place, you insert the proper location IDs in OT base asset discovery. And here is how that works. The location ID for the discovery node itself acts as a default for all discovered networks and devices for this node. This simplifies matters if your asset discovery node discovers devices in close proximity, such as all in one room. A different scenario emerges if you do remote discovery, where you route into networks that are not physically attached to your discovery node. In this case, your remote networks will most likely need a dedicated location ID. In order to do this, select the respective network and enter a location ID in the Network Details pane. This location ID will then be used for this network rather than the default from the discovery node. It will also be used as a default for all the devices that are discovered in that network. Now let's think of a situation where you have a network that covers a pretty large area, such as a whole plant, and you want to be more specific about device location. For example, point out the control system cabinet that a device resides in. In order to do that, you select the device in question and enter your location ID in the Device Details pane. Or you select a group of devices with Shift left click or Control left click and then assign a specific location ID to all selected devices. If you think that can result in a lot of manual work, relax, because assigning location IDs can also be automated using the REST API of OT base asset discovery. So, if you have an Excel table with IP addresses and location IDs, you can use that to automatically update the configuration of OT base asset discovery. Finally, there is an additional aspect of location management that should not be overlooked. In OT base, location is one of the central pillars for defining inventory access. So, for example, you can limit access for certain users or user groups to devices at a particular site. This is made possible by assigning proper locations to your devices and by observing the hierarchy that you have defined in Asset Center. Let's assume we want a particular user group to only see, but not edit, device data for the Flatrock site. All we need to do then is to define a special access rule where I use the location field to limit access to, in our case, Flatrock. That's it. Now these users won't be able to see assets and networks at other sites. If you want to go even further and limit access to the body in Whitehall at Flatrock, we just go one level deeper in the location hierarchy. So, there you have it. That's how to use locations and location IDs in OTBase. Use the comment section below for any questions that you might have, or use the contact form at langner.com.